Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Welcome back to Get Your Shit Together with Yana Kasperzak podcast. And today you're tuning into yet another incredible episode of our special series, Your Journey of Becoming from Dreaming to Doing. This is where real women share their real life stories, all the messy, the magical, the middle part of becoming who they're meant to be. Because the truth and the reality is that your dream life does not start when everything is perfect. It actually starts when everything is chaotic, messy. And the moment that you say, I am done playing small, when you've had enough and ready to do whatever it takes once and for all to stop dreaming and start doing, to stop surviving and start thriving. And if you're ready to not just say that, but also do that, then grab your coffee, light your candle, and let's dive in. Because today I'm you got your coffee. So today I'm joined with by Natasha Agha, and she is a speech language pathologist who turned into private practice strategist and whole self leadership and alignment coach. After building and running a private practice, Natasha experienced firsthand that burnout and overwhelm that come with trying to do it all. You ladies know exactly what I'm talking about. And now she helps high achieving women, entrepreneurs, and licensed practitioners reclaim their time, align their business with their purpose, and lead with clarity. She's a creator of Align Method and host of the Fear Chronicles podcast, where she blends strategy, mindset, and self leadership to inspire that success that would be referred to as sustainable. And you're going to absolutely love her story. So, Natasha, so since this is Get Your Shit Together podcast, where we don't do the surface level shit, we do the
hmm
raw, authentic, sometimes right in your face. There's no BSing, there's no fluffing, because, this toxic positivity, all this toxic way of being doesn't really help us to get to where we want to. So, I'd love to hear from you. When did you realize the life that you were living wasn't actually yours and begun getting your shit together?
I love it. I was going to say, how far back do we want to go? Because I
As
feel
far
like
as you're
there's
being called, go to the beginning.
oh,
I
lessons
was
and
born
lessons and
in.
lessons, right? Oh my gosh. Well, I was going to ask too about the level of swearing that is allowed. So, but it sounds like that's okay because
Well, if
I
the word
we're
shit is
potty
in there,
mouth.
it's not for kids.
I know,
You're okay.
right? Right. Honestly, for me, I'm a Leo, so I'm really stubborn and really loyal. So my problem was that everything like I just kept grasping at straws. So if we go all the way back, I literally had to have my whole life blow up in my face twice for me to really get the hint that nothing that I was doing was working because everything literally fell apart. And even though I tried to rebuild, it fell apart again. And I was like, okay, we got to do a whole refresh, rebuild, like everything because even what I thought I was doing was not working.
Mhm.
So for me, we go back at least God, my sense of time, at least 5 years, maybe six. I went to do on my first entrepreneurial journey. So
Mhm.
what I do now is my second. And so I started, I had my son. So I was a pretty fresh mom. I decided, I was like, I hate my job. At the time I was working as, a rehab director. So I oversaw the whole like physical occupational speech therapy in like a facility.
Mhm.
And I was working like 80 hours a week. I've been doing it for years. I just like
The
so
corporate
be
job, yeah.
yeah, and before that was my normal, but I knew I didn't want to do that. So I was like, how do I get free? And I was like, I work for myself. So I had this bright idea that I wanted to create not only a private practice, but at the time also a mobile swallow study unit. So basically what that means is people normally will go into a clinic to it's like an x-ray but on video and
Okay.
it's supposed to help people be able to figure out like what they can swallow safely. So it's usually like post-stroke or anything like that.
Okay.
And I had it on wheels. So I took out a loan, I did all the things, and then COVID happened. The pandemic happened. And
Mm,
so that was about a
yeah.
month after I quit my job, my constant income. And I was
Oof.
like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
This was probably where I was like, wanted to backpedal, but I was like, well, I'm here. So we're going to do it. But it just, everything was slower. Everything took longer than I thought. There were more steps, more red tape, more hurdles, more things that,
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
and just built and built and built. And so it took what seemed like forever for me to launch and find contractors and do all the things and get established. But even when I did get to a point where we were actually like seeing clients and doing the things, like I said before, so I started this journey burnt out already, thinking
Mhm.
I was going to get the grass was greener. But I went into everything not in a good space, more of a, so I built that business on grind, hustle, grit, all the things. And I just ran into all these hurdles. But the more I saw it, the more I was like, this is hard, this is terrible, and that's just more of what I
Yeah.
saw. And finally, my business blew up in my face, meaning that like the clients that we had, they stopped paying. So then I couldn't cover payroll, I couldn't cover costs, I
Mm,
couldn't, and I was still, because again, I just like do. I was
yep.
just trying to find a way to market, to do something different, to get the money so I could keep going. And then up until like the day I had to do payroll again, I was like, I don't have it. What do I do? And in the midst of all of this, every other aspect of my life was falling apart at the same time because I put all my
Mm,
income that I was making on the side into the business loan, into business credit cards because I was like, I'm making this work. This is going to happen because I had tunnel vision, and I'm like, nothing in me was like, should you stop and reassess what you're doing or try something
yeah.
different? No, I was like, I already committed. I'm doing it. And I made it work. But that strained not only myself because I went and moved to this position to free myself. And I was working the same amount of hours, if not more. And then on
Yeah.
top of that, felt more pressure because it was mine and I wanted it to do well. And of course, wanted to pay the people that I hired. And all along, I never paid myself. So it's literally all of my money was
Right.
going into the business, didn't pay myself a penny. And then, with the financial constraints that bled into my relationship with my children's father. And he became very, I understand, like resentful,
Mhm.
frustrated, like, is this working? I don't think this is working. I think you should, do something different. But then, that caused strains there. So I'm still not seeing all of these things that are happening because I'm so focused
Yeah.
on making this business work until I just was like, I have to like close. I have to stop. And not only did I have to stop because I still had the loan and the credit cards and all the things that I finally had to the universe was like, "What are you doing?" I had to file bankruptcy because I was like, "Well, I
Mm,
can't pay this back." I was in a space
yeah.
where I was owed, thousands of dollars from these clients still, but that still wouldn't have covered the cost of all of the debt I accrued to continue to make
Yeah.
this happen, right? So then that's what I did. I closed that first business. I filed the bankruptcy. I was working on resolving kind of all of the things. I went back reluctantly to a job that I disliked because I needed money, consistent money, right? So I went back to being a rehab director. I was trying to resolve the issues that came up with my relationship and, being present with then I had my second, so with my children. So then I had two kids and went back to the job I hated. And then my life exploded all over again. And my then partner was like, he was like, I don't want this. I don't want to do this. And because at that point too, I closed my business, but I still had this itch to like, I was like, I want to do some. This isn't what I want to do. I don't want to do this the rest of my life. This was just like a placeholder until I could figure out what I wanted to do with my life. And the funniest part is this pivot that I made into what I do now actually came from him, my partner at the time, was he said, you have this unique experience and you know all these things. And he's like, you could help so many people. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what I want to do. I was
Yeah.
like, how do I take all of these things that I learned? Because I relaunched everything in that first business before I closed it. I optimized systems. I figured out all these things that would have made that business what I should have did in the beginning, but you don't know what you don't know. I
Yeah.
created all of these things for the practice that ultimately never got used, at least to what it could have been, because I was,
Mhm.
I crashed and burned. And so when I decided that I wanted to start this new venture, that was too much of a strain and too much of a gamble, I guess you could say, to my partner. And he was like, "I already did this once. I'm not doing it again." And and I get that entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart, whether that is for you
Absolutely not.
yourself,
No.
for the
No.
family, especially for the partner. There's
High
so many.
risk and high
It's very high
reward.
risk.
Yeah, very high risk.
Yes. Yes.
And very high
So
reward.
absolutely.
Not just
And
financial, but emotional, like especially when you get to do the thing that you love to do. Like how rewarding is that?
so I can't even sometimes put words into it because even in my previous career, it being a speech like I loved the, helping people and they improve and they get to go home or they, are able to speak and, express themselves. But that's like a different level of this reward now that you get when you're in that alignment. And that was kind of the
Yeah.
rest of the journey that unfolded for me afterwards. So that was when my life exploded for the second time and I was like, okay, so my home life is going to look different. So then
Yeah.
we are, decided to co-parent and we, split physically. But then that was me also betting on myself. And I was like, I eventually got that money that was owed to me from these clients that didn't pay. And I reinvested that into myself. And that was
Mm.
into, all of the self-development, the coursework to
Yeah.
create the platforms and what my now course, my signature program is, which is the Private Practice Burnout Solution, which is a combination then of all of the systematic things for the practice, along with the rest of the journey that unfolded of that self-discovery, which is the mindset and ultimately my nervous system, because that's when I could actually slow down and say, what is going on with me? And I mean, I actually have a podcast episode coming out later this month, which was I went in during around this time because I was convinced I had ADHD. I had like all the symptoms and like even my partner at the time was like, she's like, you totally have that. And come to find out, like when I did the assessment, all the things, they didn't diagnose me with ADHD because the thing is I didn't have any of those symptoms when I was a child, which was like I was like, oh. And that's what led me down to like, oh, like, the nervous system. And then,
Yeah.
the fact that I just totally abandoned myself. Like, even before I became a mother, I don't even think I truly knew who I was, what my identity was.
Well, we
And
don't until
so
later in life. And our kids actually help us to discover our identity. So we
they
can't
do.
know what it is until we have them.
Honestly, I think that's literally 100% true. And it's like the biggest blessing. Obviously, I'm so happy to be a mother. All the lessons that I've learned, even though they're small,
Yeah.
like from being a mother and yeah, what that has taught me, but then how I want to show up as a mother and then but also my best self, which to me are two different things because it's about really putting myself first. So this journey that I've been on now for the last like year and a half, almost 2 years of not only building my second business and and myself, but figuring out and I had to redefine what success meant to me and what that looked like because all of the things that I realized as I went back and reflected and what was going on with me and who I was, I didn't know who I was. Then you slap motherhood on top of it, and I had completely lost myself. Didn't know. I didn't. People would ask me like, "What are your hobbies? What do you like to do?" I couldn't answer that honestly. Like I was like,
Washing dishes, making
"Yeah,
dinners,
sleep? I don't know. Is that not a hobby? Like because I
change
never did
diapers.
those. Yeah, like I just have all these jobs and all these labels, right?
Yeah.
So really peeling back those layers and to discover like what makes you happy. And what I found is like it really has to go back to when you were a child, right? Because
Yes.
that is where all of the beauty lies, and what we like kind of lose, or it gets like kind of masked over with all these things, as what I've discovered, like labels, but like all of these
Hmm.
stories. And it was the stories that I was telling myself, and really figuring out what were the facts and what are the stories. And then what of those stories, who taught me that? Where did I hear that from? Because
Hmm.
stories, what we believe are just stories on repeat. So we hear
Yeah.
something so many times, right, as a child or just in general, you tend to, believe them. So you have to
Yeah.
really dive in. And I had to ask myself, what do I actually believe to be true? And that's where all this like kind of exploded. And I was like, I actually don't believe a majority of like what I was thinking. These were all just
Yeah.
stories, right? And they were
Hmm.
limiting. And it
Yeah.
was, especially my first business, I had these stories. Everything is hard. This is so difficult. Why is all of
Yes.
these things
Yes.
happening to me? Because that was like kind of that confirmation bias, because I kept thinking about it and kept expecting it, and that is exactly what I saw, and that's what happened all over my life. Is everything exploded because it wasn't even my life. I mean, it was, but it was just like all of these different things were unraveling all at the same time for me to see, a like get your shit together, right? Like it was like none
Right.
of this was like from the relationship to how I was operating as a person, as a mother, as a business owner, as a friend, as a daughter, like all of these things. I was not me.
Yeah.
I didn't know who I was. So this has been like a really big full circle moment for me on so many levels. But it ultimately came from getting my shit together, but going on this like, what do I want? What does success look like to me? What would I love to do? And how do I want to be of service to
Yes.
others? And this is that where I discovered like, okay, I was right in the sense of I wanted to be an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
but the mechanism or the vehicle was like still kind of misaligned. Like I just did what I knew, right, which
You
was
had a rough
private
copy.
practice. Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Draft.
So like I had an idea of what I wanted. I just only knew entrepreneurship kind of in the sense of like what am I already doing, or what could I do within the realm of my profession, right? Because that was the
Hmm.
label and how I operated. That was my primary identity. I didn't it was either mom or I was a speech language pathologist, and that was like my
Yeah.
identity. So I operated and I was like, okay, I'll open a practice, not realizing that there's so many other things I could do. So it was just like
Yeah.
aligning myself to, yes, entrepreneurship, but there's so much more in that realm. And so that's where like it is private practice, the strategies and the operational, like, things to make it efficient. But there's also what I discovered as I kind of said about, the, I lost my train of thought, but the fact that, um, everything is a mirror. So if I
Yeah.
go back and I look at when everything was crashing and burning the second time, was that if I looked around, everything was mirroring what was going on inside of me. And that was my biggest aha. And when I was like, oh, this is where I have to get my shit together, literally in all areas of my life. My
Hmm.
practice was a mirror of everything that was going on inside of me. Like,
Yeah.
I was a hot mess. And that was being reflected to me outward, as everything is like, I'm seeing flames, like, right? Everything is like on fire. And I'm like, oh my God. And there's my relationship is on fire. And again, it was mirroring a lot of things that were within me. So there's like, again, those stories of, you know, like these worthiness wounds, abandonment wounds. Again, that stemming can go back to childhood, even if I really
All
want
of
to
it
go
goes
back
back to
there.
childhood,
And it was all
literally.
flooding up, and it was being
Yeah.
mirrored back to me. And like, I didn't enoughness. And that was clear, like me feeling like I wasn't enough
Hmm.
when it came to running and owning my private practice, to being in that relationship, to how I was, as a mother, like all of these things, everything was being mirrored back to me. It was just me outward. And I was like, holy shit. Wow. And so that is like, because if we want to fix and get our shit together, it all starts inside,
Yeah.
internally, right? And for me, the biggest piece was figuring out like, well, putting myself first, but like it all comes, all starts with you. And that was like a big piece of my my program and why I start there, because your practice, your career, your entrepreneurial journey, that is all a reflection of you. And even
Yeah.
in my relationship, he was just reflecting back to me how I felt and how I saw things.
He
So
saw
it
the
wasn't him.
truth. Yeah.
It was what I didn't want to see in
Yeah.
myself was being reflected back to me. So that was just me not seeing, but now hindsight being 2020. Because again, like you can only connect the dots going backwards, right? So like going
Yeah.
back and going, oh my gosh. I mean, now it's so clear to me. But when you're in it, when you're in
No,
the
it's
muck and
not.
the
Yeah.
guck and the like, none of that makes sense. You're just like, ugh. And that was me thinking everything again was happening to me. But now I can
Yeah.
sit back
When
and be
we're
like,
the
oh,
victim. Yeah.
why is this always happening? Or
The
I'm
world is
stuck in this
against
loop.
me. Yeah.
Yes. And really realizing that literally every step, that first business that crashed and burned, I look at that, that's my launch pad. Because had I not had that entire journey, had I not had those experiences, had I not gotten paid
That's
and
your
not crashed and burned,
education. Yes.
ah,
That's your university right there.
yes. And
Literally.
I took that investment and then I reinvested because I believed in myself and I said, I don't know exactly what I'm going to create, but I know I'm going to create something and it is going to be amazing and it is going to help so many people. Like they will find me and they will, I can save them hopefully from all of this based on everything that I've learned and been able to like kind of put into package it in a way that is like, here, these are the things I did, these are the steps, or these are what really worked for me when it comes to these stories that we tell ourselves, the thoughts that we're having. We're not thinking about our thoughts, that's the whole point, they're automatic, but like those are the things that are driving what we are seeing and what our life is like, is what we are thinking about, because that's what we're going to see. And then if we're thinking everything's happening to us, well, the more you know the more things are going to happen to you. Or is it happening for me? What's the lesson in this right now? What is this trying to show me? What is this being reflected? This is being reflected to me for some reason, right?
Yeah.
What is the reason? Or what am I supposed to learn? If I'm doing this over and over and over again, what didn't I get the first time? Because
Yeah.
why am I here again? Like kind of those
Yeah.
things. But a lot of that, it was for me, was retrospective. Like I wasn't thinking any of
It's
these things.
no, it's like that for everyone. Like you said,
Yeah.
2020. We
Mm-hmm.
I like to use the analogy of a car. That's why
Mm-hmm.
I truly do like if you look at the car, if you see the windshield, which is the future, one
Mm-hmm.
big window. Well, you can
Mm-hmm.
only see so far. But in order for you to really see the full picture, you have to look in the three rearview mirrors, and then you have two on the side, which is the present moment. And
Ooh,
then
I like
everything
this.
in the rear view mirror, right? The side ones and the one right over the future, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You have to see the back, but see, they're small. They're much smaller than the future because future is much bigger than the back.
Mm-hmm.
But you cannot live life not looking because if you're driving, and hopefully none of you are doing this, if you're driving and you're not looking in the rear view mirrors or on the side, you're gonna be one of those ladies who drove into me, not looking at me, just beside as I'm in the lane,
Mm-hmm.
and she drives right into me. But if she just looked out the window,
Mm-hmm.
paused for a moment and brought herself into the present moment because I was literally in her present moment, right? In the window,
Right?
you would see me right beside.
Yeah.
This was a couple of years back. But I believe life is all full of analogies. And I love there's a few
Mm-hmm.
analogies that you use, even like the grass is greener, right? Where we do leave the job that we have or the life that we have because we believe in many ways
Mm-hmm.
it is fantasy. In other ways, I'll use the word delusion. When we're living in that delusion where everything is great, everything is peachy and perfect, it's also might be even called toxic positivity, where we're not really allowing, it's not that we're not seeing it. It's
Mm-hmm.
that we're not allowing ourselves to see where we are and to see where we're about to be. And that's why the first time you knew, you could tell, you could sense, you could see
Mm-hmm.
some things, but denial is a powerful thing.
Mm-hmm.
Fantasy is even more powerful. And those things are what makes us humans. And those are the best things that we can utilize for ourselves. But then the second time, that's when you have the experience of the first, and
Mm-hmm.
now you're able to understand it and see it that much more clear, so there won't be a third time. But the
Mm-hmm.
truth is that the grass is never greener on the other side. It's greener where we water it, where we take care of it.
Exactly.
And that's what you were doing as well by pouring into yourself and reinvesting into yourself
Mm-hmm.
because you know that this is like anything that you want to achieve in your life, in your world, you want to level up at your job, you don't go and learn more about the job. You learn more about yourself. Personal
Mm-hmm.
development is key. Everything
E.
that you want to have in life all starts with you, literally.
Mm-hmm.
So when you start working on yourself, without even asking for that raise, you're gonna get it because
Yes.
you're going to increase your vibrational frequency to a
Mm-hmm.
point where you will be worthy that amount. But prior
Right.
to that, you're going to change that programming of unworthiness, not good enough,
Mm-hmm.
which we do start learning when we're young and when we're little. Before we're 7, we take information in
Mm-hmm.
without questioning whatsoever. Literally, that becomes our core program. You don't question the creators that are
Yep.
creating us, which is our
Mm-hmm.
friends, our parents. Now, for our kids, it's the social media. There's so much more that they're being
Yep.
exposed to. And for
Mm-hmm.
us, it was just human contact,
Mm-hmm.
literal physical human contact, that program. But with our kids, it's so much more. And then with their kids, there's going to be something else that will be taking place. And I want to be around to see it. Of where also, we're probably going to have flying cars in our lifetime. Like, come on.
What is that? Like was it the Jeffersons? I think was the cartoon where they had like the flying car. I don't know.
I think that yeah, there's a few different like shows and cartoons, but it's really interesting. And I love that
Jetsons.
you
Jetsons. That's what it was.
Jetsons.
Sorry.
It would make sense because then it's a jet and they're jetting away, right?
Mm-hmm.
Flying. But I also love how you, in the process of getting your shit together, that you continue to do, that you discovered that the things that you were trying to do were in
Mm-hmm.
many ways connected to the older version of you, of the things that you already
Yes.
knew. So it's like, let's stick to
Mm-hmm.
the safe and familiar to
Mm-hmm.
now fuck all this shit, abandon it. I'm gonna start something that I absolutely love and I'm passionate about, and I
Mm-hmm.
would do that every single day.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing how your journey of your becoming and getting your shit together allows us to see ourselves in your story. And I'm sure many different ways for ladies listening. For me, definitely in many ways. But this is not about me. This is about you today. And I also know that for every version, like when you went through those, I would call them traumatic experiences, right? When you
Mm-hmm.
lose everything and
Yep.
everything is on fire, like those are traumatic fucking experiences. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a version of you that really died there,
Yes.
right?
A
Crashed, burned,
few.
died. There's a few, and each time
Mm-hmm.
there's a few versions. And I know there's
Yep.
going to be one of them that really stands out to you where it literally gets to a point where enough is enough and you're just finding yourself doing things. So, in order for that version of you to exist, that exists now, what
Mm-hmm.
version of you, of that woman, of that child, had to die in order for you to be here and live in the way that you do?
Oh, I don't know that I could pick just one,
Oh, it's
but
never one, but it's like the loudest one that comes out. I am here. Talk about me now. Which one is that?
right? Oh my gosh. Uh, honestly, the ver it was more of I don't know if it was a more recent version, but it was the over she was an overachiever.
Hmm. Tell me
Type
more.
A over yeah. Oh, she's like a combination of like I feel like from college up until like I
Mm,
started the private practice. It's like a version of me that came out where I was hyper independent. And being independent is not a bad thing, but in the sense where like I just was like, I don't need anyone to my detriment, right? So I didn't ask for
yeah,
help when I
I can
needed
relate.
help. I was very this version was very not aware of anything else going on. I would think that I was doing everything for myself, but it really it was for
Everybody
external.
else. Yeah.
It was for everyone else to validate myself. So the
Yeah.
problem was then that was where the overworking came from. It was overperforming.
Yes.
Just like I was performing,
Yeah.
and that it was across everything, whether that would be, you know, in a workplace environment to friendships to even, you know, familial things that I would like. I was performing. I wasn't, because I didn't even know who I was like
Yeah.
authentically. I was just performing whatever role I felt like I was in because I was the overachieving people pleaser. She had to die. So
Yeah.
I'm not a full-on bitch, but I am not super nice anymore. Because I was overly like I would just like cave, and I just like because I
Yeah.
wanted to keep the peace, or I just didn't want to come off as a bitch, right?
You
Or I
were
didn't
a good
want,
girl. Yeah.
yeah, and you don't have to be mean to get your point across, but I lacked boundaries. I lacked, and that became very, very evident as I became an entrepreneur because it all just like bled into, because I say a lot in videos and podcast episodes, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So
Yes.
like what I didn't realize, right, is what I'm doing in my personal life is bleeding into my business and vice versa. So if
Hmm.
I don't know how to maintain boundaries in my personal life, well, I'm sure as hell not going to maintain boundaries in my business, because
Yeah.
why would I have one and not the other? Like so, and that goes for all things, right? If I am, and I don't keep my word to myself, I would keep, you know, I would show up and do all the things for everyone else. If even if I overcommitted, I'd still do it. But then if it came to, I need to drink an extra couple glasses of water, I couldn't even do that. Why?
Yeah.
Because I didn't even prioritize that as something important. Because I just, you know, I didn't prioritize myself, right? I prioritized everybody else, made sure everybody else was good. And then if I had anything left for myself, then maybe I would. But I didn't because I was so tired, right? Is that again, that was like
Yeah.
that nervous system was so
Fried.
beyond yeah, dysregulated for years before I even went into entrepreneurship because I didn't even realize. And that's the problem I had is I couldn't even identify in my body. I was so in my head, and
Hmm.
that was the biggest thing is I was in my head anticipating, right? The next problem, troubleshooting 10 different scenarios for this thing that hasn't even happened yet. What else could happen? What else could go wrong? What am I going to do when this happens, right? Or I'm
Yeah.
reminiscing and replaying on repeat something that happened in the past. Like I can do something like with that, right? And then replaying different scenarios. That's not helpful. What is that doing? Nothing,
Well,
right?
many would say it's I'm preparing myself, but why would you prepare yourself for the worst case scenario
Hmm.
when you can prepare yourself for the best case scenario? And if the worst happens, guess what? Usually, actually, all the time, the best case scenario comes out of that. The worst,
Yep.
thinking of the worst thing that ever happened to you. From that, the best things grew on
Hmm.
that soil. You talking about
Yeah.
forest. I love forests. I love analogies. And when it comes to a forest, if a for once in a while, even there's some places where they'll do that on purpose. They'll either
Hmm.
burn the grass so that way the new grass can grow,
Hmm.
or the forest is burned and then everything rises from the ashes because the ashes
Mm.
themselves they feed, that's the fertilizer, literally the corpses of the trees and plants become
Hmm.
the food for the new plants that are waiting to grow, and now they'll start growing and they'll grow thicker, everything grows thicker and more
Mm.
lush and more beautiful and greener, and then becomes the Amazon jungle. Right.
Right.
um,
Yeah.
but
I
it
love that.
everything comes from death and rebirth. And I
Hmm.
am a believer that all of us, in many ways, we die and we wake up in the morning being reborn, essentially. Even though
Hmm.
we're not really dying, right? And being reborn, but in many ways, we have a new version every single day. I'm not the same Yana I was yesterday.
Hmm.
Or definitely not the same Yana that was here 10 years ago, because 10 years ago was exactly when my dog passed away on my birthday. Well, not exactly today, but on Tuesday it was. And
Hmm.
that was, it's like, it's that rock bottom, and that we all experience rock bottom, but it's never just one.
Hmm.
It's never one. One is not enough. We don't learn enough. We need more
No,
and
right?
more and more and more, right? Until we
Yeah.
finally learn. It's like a child. How many attempts does a child make when it starts to walk? Many, as long as it
Hmm.
takes, right? And then it learns
Right.
how to walk. The same thing with us. And we wouldn't call a child a failure. And if we did, like, oh, you suck, you fail, you crap,
Right.
you never walk, just give up while you're ahead, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we do that with ourselves. Meanwhile, we need to fall down many times before we finally learn how to walk. And then
Mm-hmm.
before we learn how to run, we need to really get good at walking. And then we
Right.
learn how to walk. And throughout this life, we also go through these, this moment that I refer to as enough is enough, where you've suffered enough, you've dealt with it enough, and you're done, and you made a decision. Decision means you cut away from all the other possibilities, which means this is it and nothing else. It's like literally you get to the island and you burn all the ships and the boats, right? That's the enough is enough moment. What was your enough is enough moment where you knew it's either you change or you stay stuck like this forever?
I love your questions. I would say, what month is it? It is May. So
Nay.
probably I would say just shy of a year ago for me.
Hmm.
Because there were a few things that came up for me in that time. I've been, working on myself and healing my nervous system, which has been taking me some time. But
Yeah.
it came to a point where, like, intellectually, I knew, like, I wasn't seeking external validation, right? Like, when it comes to making
Mhm.
content and trying to, like, this visibility that I felt at the time like I wasn't getting. And I was like, finding myself almost reverting back to the older identity, right? That's
Yeah.
like, nothing's working. What, like, why, like, what, and I was like, first of all, no, right? Because that's not what's important here, right? It's not, who cares how many likes there are, how many followers you have, how
Those
many,
things
like,
don't pay bills. The likes,
yeah,
the all that doesn't
right.
pay
That
bills.
doesn't pay the bills. I said, the point, I really had to talk myself off the ledge. And I said, you didn't invest all this money in yourself, do all the work on yourself. Oh, you didn't come this far to only get so far. What are you going to do? Go back to
Right.
your a full-time fucking job that you can't stand? No. Like, are you
I ain't a
gonna
quitter.
like, I'm not a quitter. But I was like, how would you feel? So like I literally had to like think about, like, I don't entertain it, but like I was like, okay, if you feel this way or you think that you're thinking this way, I was like, could you go back and just work and not do any of this, even though, so you're not seeing what you want to see, but I was like, are you gonna go just work? Like, how does that make you? And I was like, ugh, no.
You know,
I
my
was like,
favorite quote that I heard once, and since then I'm like, oh, I love it. A paycheck is a bribe that you accept to put your dreams on hold.
ooh, say that again. That was
A
good. Yeah.
paycheck is a bribe you accept to put your dreams on hold.
I
And
love
that's what I was
that.
like, when you're talking
Mm-hmm.
about, I had that moment as well as I'm sure many
Mm-hmm.
women who are entrepreneurs have that moment where it's like, am I gonna go and accept that bribe to put my dreams and my life on hold, which means that
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually building somebody else's dream. I'm like, no, I'm not living for them. I'm living for me and for my
Mm-hmm.
family. And what does
Mm-hmm.
that mean? I love that enough is enough moment because that's where it's like you decided and realized that I'm not gonna make anybody else's dreams come true. It's my fucking turn. It's me. So what did you
Mm-hmm.
do to make that happen?
I decided because everything starts with a decision, right? So like once
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I mean, I was doing all the things, but I was like, I really have to get clear with myself, and I was like, I have to be decisive here because you're
Mm,
not going to go back, and if you change nothing, nothing changes. So it's like, what do I need to change to feel like, am I feeling like not super aligned? Like what's happening? And so what I realized is I took, kind of that bird's eye view and I was like, okay, let's look at everything that I've been doing. So what happened that year prior was I was grasping at straws again, in a
mm,
sense, but in a different way in this business where I was like, oh, maybe this isn't working. So then I created more free resources. Then I pulled things from my signature program and I was like, oh, I'll just do like live workshops and I'm going to do like a mini course, which was based off my, like, so I basically kind of Frankenstein my business. So I added all these other things because I was like, well, if this isn't working, do this. So I busied myself. So
yeah.
when I got to that point, I was like, what makes sense? And it was to simplify. So I really looked and I was like, wait, I was like, all of these things, most of them were part of my business, but I was like, you know what? Because I made all these additional, like, well, all this progress on myself and all this other learning that came not from like the business side, but more of like that, the nervous system to the mindset to the thoughts to the all this stuff. And I was like, you know, that's not in my program. So I was like, I'm going to revamp, not only am I going to revamp my program to make these changes, because I was like, these have to be in here, like more than like I felt like my first program, because it was so old, the first iteration, I should say, was so old in the sense where it was some versions of me ago that I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, I need to update it. I felt called to update it. And I was like, and I'm going to simplify. I'm going to take all this stuff I frank is all going into the program. And I'm going to simplify. And
Yeah.
I said, instead of fragmenting my energy and my focus, I said, I'm going to focus on this. And so that was my decision. And then that's what I've done. And that is I just about ready to launch the set like the 2.0, but the current iteration, which is all of the things in this program because and then I've been able to focus, right? So like I feel like the the result, the content, everything has been astronomically better. I didn't realize how scattered I was,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
From being all over the place, working on so many different things, being able to take all that energy and
Yeah.
really focus it and dial it in on what matters most to me. And I kind of lost, like I lost that. So that was again another journey within even the current business as I started with that. But then I was like kind of playing around with things, which was still good. I learned so much. I learned so much about making content. I learned so much about what kind of content I like to do, what feels good to me, what kind of like what I like to do. And that's when I discovered the podcast, which I still like love and that's my baby, right? So I wouldn't have discovered all these things along the way had I not done that. But then to really go, you know what? Let's dial it all back and focus and go back to your anchor, right? What's your why? What is it why did you start this business and what is it exactly that you want to do?
Hmm.
Change lives, right? But
Yeah.
like, but be really crystal clear again about what it is. Why am I doing this? Because if I'm not going back, what what are we doing? What is the end
Yeah.
goal? And it's yeah, to make a kick-ass program, but to help as many people as possible, to get people, whether that even through free content, I could care less. Like it's about helping, you know, even one person. It's
Hmm.
about reaching people and it's about helping people. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day, the money. The money's going to be there whether you know, doesn't matter where it's coming from. The point is to be of service, right? And what is your
Yeah.
anchor? What is your why? So that was what I had to go back to really to dial that in for myself.
Yeah. No, I love that. And honestly, it's like I wrote down the intention behind the why. I feel like this is what it's
Mm,
important to go back to is to
yeah.
really understand why we're doing it, but not just the why itself, but it's really the intention behind it because intention is really what drives us.
Yes.
Sometimes, like, the intention can be to read the book or to be just to get the information from the book that I need, or it could be just to complete
Mm,
the book. And you
sure.
get different results based on the intention that you have, that you set up for yourself unconsciously before you go and you read that book. Because then you read
Hmm.
that book, if the intention was just to read the book from cover to cover and you get through it, you're going to walk away with not retaining any information. But if
Hmm.
the intention is to understand what's in the
Hmm.
book and then apply what you understand, then what you're actually doing is you're taking somebody's decades or lifetime of work that's put into a book. For you, it's a course, it's a program, right? Which is a lot
Hmm.
more personalized in the book. And then you do something with it. You learn and apply. Many people will learn and not apply, or just have the check mark of I did it and I did it, I did it. And
Hmm.
attention is going to be different. And when it comes to building a business, having that intention behind why you do the things that you do, why this business, and
Hmm.
also recognizing that that's not permanent either.
Hmm.
That just because you choose this path right now does not mean in 5 or 10 years you're going to be doing the same thing. Chances are
Yeah.
we're humans, we get bored of things. So we're going to change it up and make something
Right.
different because after 5, 10 years, you're a different person,
Hmm.
which means that what you bring is going to be different, which means that you've leveled up, which means that the people you're going to be helping, they also have leveled up. They're closer to you where you are now, but they're always going to be the previous versions of you. And on this
Mm-hmm.
journey, as we're going through, it's like a lost and found game. Literally, like through
Yeah.
life, we're like losing and finding things, losing and finding
Mm-hmm.
things. You knew
Mm-hmm.
who you were, you lost that version of yourself. Then you know who you are, then you lose that again. And it happens like for us women, I feel like it actually does happen every month. That's why we have the 28-day cycle where we're
Mm-hmm.
literally finding ourselves as we're bleeding. Like literally, this is where
Yeah.
like we find like, oh, we get all sappy and then we go through that's the winter, right? And now winter
Yeah.
we start to
Yeah.
find ourselves and discover ourselves, and then we go into the spring,
Mm-hmm.
then we go into the summer season, then we go into fall and back into winter every single month. So I love that you revamped your program, recognizing
Mm-hmm.
that many things they do get outdated because there's so many more new things that and then the
Mm-hmm.
world in many ways expects of us.
Mm-hmm.
So as you're going through this life journey, I would love to know, what did you lose on your journey that you did not expect to grieve?
Ooh, that I did not expect to grieve. Hmm. Oh my gosh, that is such a good question.
Right?
I did not
It gets
expect
your
to
mind
grieve.
like twisting and
Yeah.
thinking. It's like I know I lost a lot of things, but what did I didn't expect to grieve that I grieved?
Hmm. I think I would say the my first entrepreneurial identity.
Mm, tell me more.
So for that, like I felt like I walked away with lots of tools and strategies. Like I've done this before, right?
Mhm.
So
The
when I
expert now,
came
yeah.
into right, like I mean I know like stuff. And then coming into I brought a lot of what I thought would be helpful, right, into the second business, only to realize that I really couldn't bring any of it with me because it was just shit.
Mm.
Like it wasn't helpful. Like I had to like get rid of and kind of grieve. Like I didn't think I'd grieve her, but I did because I was like I felt like it almost felt like it was almost all for nothing. If that makes sense, like feeling
Yeah.
like, but I mean, it wasn't. I learned a
Yeah.
lot, but like it felt like,
But it doesn't take away from the feeling like this is like all for nothing. Mentally, you understand,
yeah.
but still feeling like I could have done more with it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I felt there was like a level of even like some guilt in there, and
Yeah.
like, could I have done more? And then thinking, who am I to like, should I even be doing this second business? I'm like, I don't just fuck it up
Yeah.
like I did the first one. And so like, I wavered a lot between that, but I had to like, but that was her coming with me, and I was like, I just. I was like, duh, I gotta like almost just like start over in a sense because I'm not the same. When I put the entrepreneur hat on, right? I was like, if I put her on, I was like, I feel like I put that lens on of all things shitty, right? Or like
Yeah.
negative, or oh, that already happened before. Like, like, so I had to like, yeah, I had to let a lot of that go. But then I felt I aggrieved in a sense because then I started to feel like, what what was the point? Like if I feel like I didn't learn and I can't bring that with me. Like I don't know. It was very strange, but
Hmm.
I don't know if that makes sense, but I feel like I had some issues.
No,
I was
it makes
conflicted.
perfect sense.
I was
Yeah.
feeling conflicted with that, but I really had to yeah, let all of that go. And for me that was not so much her in her total, but it was like it was the thoughts and the ideas and the stories from her.
Yeah.
That was what I had to like let go.
It's
Because
yeah.
when you
It's a
think of
lived-in
like letting,
experience.
yeah, and it was like living in my body. So I'd have these like feelings that would come up like when I'd have to make a bigger purchase, like an expense. And like it was almost like PTSD
Yes.
from before, right? Where I'd be like, oh my God, like I just started feeling this like dread and like this like I could because now I can feel what's going on in my body, right? And I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
like, why am I feeling that way? It was her freaking out over here, like,
Mhm.
remember when? Da-da-da-da. No, 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 it's not the same business. It's not the same. But I was feeling those
Yeah.
feelings in my body. And it's like, kind of like when we were talking before about like, you can, if you were living past like traumatic events in your head. I mean, your body can't really tell, like your mind, your body can't, if so you're replaying it, your body's feeling it, right? So
Yeah.
it's not doing you any good to be reliving these same things. But that's the thing, right? And that if there's a connection with, like, say, for instance, like, yeah, this bigger purchase or this bigger expense, and like you're feeling that that's your body just like remembering, right? So
Yes.
you have to get, you gotta let that shit go. And of course, that's easier said than done. There's obviously a process, but
Yeah.
it was that. It was like letting go of all things that didn't serve me. Like when it came to physically, like supplies and things I had from the previous business, I let sit forever. I finally had to like get rid. It was all just like leaking, all these energy leaks, right? And
Yeah.
so like I had to get rid of it. And then it was my previous identity clothes. I still had pre-pregnancy clothes. My oldest is 7. Like why I was like, what I think I'm gonna wear these pants. So like I went through the clothes, identities, like,
Yeah.
and then the thoughts, those feelings, like, not emotionally bypassing, but like, but is that an organic? Am I feeling that, or is this all like I'm thinking these things from before, right? Like
Mm.
these are not. I don't believe these things. These are stories, right? This is
Yeah.
what old thought processes, and so really like being granular about what am I? Is that even my own thought? Because the majority of the time, our thoughts aren't even our own.
Exactly. They're all learned behaviors. And as you said earlier, thinking about thinking, that is actually
Mhm.
a skill that we all must
Yep.
master when we think
Yep.
about the thinking that we're doing. So we're thinking about the thinking about the thinking about the thinking that we're doing, because then it
Yep.
really helps us to understand what are we really thinking. And by that, we also understand what's the program that we're carrying and recognize most of it is not even ours. It's somebody else
It's
that told us
not.
something. You,
Exactly.
how many times have you had a conversation with someone and they shared one of their worries or fears, and then you go through life and
Hmm.
you have a similar experience, and all of a sudden now you're scared, even though you've never had an experience, but your body is responding in the way of you have because you've heard this before.
Exactly.
I've had that
Exactly.
many times, and I'm like, no, I don't want to take on your shit. It's yours. So we have to conscious, especially doing the work that we do.
Hmm.
This is why many mental health experts end up having mental health experts helping them as well, because
Hmm.
and then actually it's really important if your mental health expert doesn't have someone helping them, I would be questioning as to why that is, that they're
Hmm.
not doing work on themselves, because they're going to be bringing their shit and their trauma into the
Yes.
sessions. And it's important to work through those things to also separate what's mine, what's yours, and what's somebody else's.
Yep.
Just
Yep.
because you've had that
Exactly.
experience does not mean that I will or somebody else will. But because you've shared some things, it might create some triggers for me and for
Hmm.
somebody else that's listening. And it's simply
Right.
just checking yourself at the door. As I like to remind
Hmm.
myself, check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because if you don't check yourself, then your mind will take over and it will spin you out of control like it always does. And that tornado, and you
Yep.
don't see anything that's happening. And then all of a sudden, now you have this new program that you're running on that you allowed in unconsciously.
Hmm.
But instead, pause, think, reflect, become aware of it. That's literally the process. And then don't like it, change it. Instead of
Yes. I was just
spiraling
about to
in
say that.
negative,
Yeah.
in the positive. We have options. It's just easier to go into the negative because it's familiar.
Well, and our brains are just wired that way.
They
So it's
are.
just being
Protection,
aware.
preservation, yeah.
Yep, it's just being aware. Your body is just trying to it's all trying to keep you safe. So everything's just going to be scary. Don't do that, right? So
Yes.
it's being very intentional like you said too, but it's I love that you said because basically if you really get like with the metacognition, we're thinking about our thinking, right? Our
Yeah.
metacognition, you'll find everything has a pattern. If there's loops, then that means there's patterns. So you
Yeah.
find those dominant thought patterns. What are they? They're probably shitty. And why are
Yep.
they shit? Like they're probably not yours, right? And so then you got to interrupt the pattern. How do you interrupt the pattern? Replace it, like you said.
Mhm.
Replace it with something else. Flip the thought. Because especially if you don't believe it, change it. Right. But
Yeah.
then you have to be intentional. And then that's a repetition. Because how do we change a belief? Right? Repetition. It's a
Yeah.
story.
Consistent
So
repetition.
And you can
Be
reprogram your mind if you're aware of your thoughts.
yes. Be
It's so
consistently
big.
persistent. And this is where, as you said,
Ooh, yes.
you
Yeah.
said you're stubborn. I'm a Taurus. And we Tauruses are known to be stubborn. It's like my way or the
Oh,
highway, right? But you need to
oh,
learn to adapt and be flexible. And Tauruses
yes.
are adaptable and flexible. Sometimes it could be to a fault. And I've
Mm.
noticed that where like putting other people first. And this is still
Mm-hmm.
my core program. And this is
Mm-hmm.
what I run, especially as a mother with kids, with dogs,
Sure.
husband. I want to please them. I want to make them happy. And
Of
I've
course.
also learned that people pleasing is actually a really great program. But if it makes you feel bad in the end, then you're doing it wrong.
Mm.
Because at the core, I also recognize, and I'm sure you will notice this in your life as well. We start doing things for other people, whether it's
Mm-hmm.
changing. Like for me, I started, I was in a place in my life where I wanted to end it,
Mm.
but I didn't because of my kids. So I started to change things for them.
Mm-hmm.
But I continued for myself. And now I'm continuing for myself, but also at the same time for others.
Mm-hmm.
So when we start doing things, especially those things that are hard, like looking inside, looking within, that's the hardest thing we can ever do because then we really get to know ourselves and we're scared that we're not going
Yes.
to like ourselves. But that is a
Yep.
lie that you've swallowed and you chose to believe is true because when we really look inside, we'll love ourselves. There's some
Yes.
parts we don't, but that's the shit you can change.
Yep.
So we start changing, we start doing things for others, but we
Mm-hmm.
continue for ourselves. So, yes, it will start from a place of, I have to do this, I need to
Mm.
do this, or else I
Mm-hmm.
must do this, I should do this, all of those things that, not so empowering, but then we get to a place to, I get to do
I was
this.
just gonna
I
say, I'm like, I
choose
hope
to
she
do
says
this.
that. Yes.
And that's
Yes.
where we're doing it for ourselves. But initially, it starts with
Exactly.
that to
Yep.
get us going. None of us go to school because we want to go to school. We have to. We're doing it for our parents. And then we
Right.
have that experience. We come out on the other
Mm-hmm.
side, and I've had the
Mm-hmm.
school experience now, and then I get to do what I want to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully,
Mm-hmm.
but most people go to school for things that they end up not doing anything with. Most people
Mm-hmm.
don't know what they want to do until after 30 years old.
Right.
And all of us are continuously getting our shit together. And I would love to hear for you, Natasha, how are you getting your shit together every single day? And what does actually look like in your real life?
Ooh. God, I love your questions. Ah, well, it's an ongoing process, but I
Yes.
think for me, it was really how I'm getting my getting my shit together now is a combination of a balance and really coming up with a structure that starts with, well, arguably either the night before, getting enough sleep, but then
Mhm.
starting in the morning. What does my morning routine look like? Because that is whatever time I decide to wake up, but that is for me. And that's what I look at. Like, am I journaling? Am I, reading? Am I meditating? And there's been days I've missed, right? And I notice a humongous shift if I
Mm.
don't completely complete for some reason, like my morning routine, I'm off. I can feel it. I don't feel regulated. Like there's a huge like when I discovered even like EFT tapping, especially, but like all these things to help me like quiet my mind, quiet those thoughts, which has really helped me tremendously get my shit together, but also stay really grounded. Because again, like I talked before, I was always in my head. So I was attached to my body. I had no sense of what, what was going on in my body. When I am like grounded and being able to be present, which again was not happening before. So those are like my non-negotiables now for like to get my shit together. So if I'm grounded, and I
Mhm.
can be as much as possible be present in the present moment, I operate differently. And then that
Yes.
shows up in everything else that I'm doing, whether that is business, is that, is it a podcast episode? Is it a podcast interview? Is it with my kids? What are we doing? And
Mhm.
but I'm really tapping into like that playful side. I think the more present I am, the more playful I am. Or, like not so like, what do I have to do next? Or, oh my God, I didn't do the 10 things that I did yesterday. These are all like previous versions of myself, right? So that, and then I changed the way that I like do my calendar and my planning, which is stuff that I talk about in my course too. But it's like a planning to like my energy, which has been really huge for me because my constant previous self would be like, there's not enough time in the day, or I've got 10 million things to do.
Yeah.
And now that, I mean, in this more aligned business, I mean, I'm probably doing the same amount of things, if not more, but I don't feel depleted. I don't feel like I'm working, but like I don't feel like it's work, right? Like it's
Yeah.
fun. Like there's some things that, it could be more fun, but then there's ways to make it fun, whether it's
Yeah.
music, eat your favorite snack, whatever it is, right? But I more intentional, right? So I think the intentionality piece is kind of throughout where
Yeah.
getting your shit together is really intentional. So like there's certain things now that I plan at certain times of the day, like my brain is a lot better in the morning. So there's certain things that if I'm going to do it, whether it's like creating content or writing a podcast episode or whatever, I do them at certain times now, and I don't do them when I'm not so super great because it takes me longer.
Yeah.
The content itself, the end result, I feel like isn't as good, but that's how you get more done in less time. So I'm able to kind of stack things in a way that I'm utilizing, what I know best about myself, right? Because you know yourself best. So you can plan for yourself. Like who says you have to do this at this time and this at this time? If you want to knock out meetings at the end of the day because you don't need your full brain capacity, then do that. End your day that way. Why are they spread out? Or like, like stuff like that. So I kind of
Yeah.
am just more intentional of where I place things and then intentionally scheduling rest, which never occurred
Right?
before, where I'm just like, you know what, I'm actually not going to do anything. Like that just seemed really foreign and like unsafe at one point in my life, right? To previous
Yeah.
versions of myself to be like, or not to do that, but then felt guilty or like, what else can I be
Hmm.
doing? Or could I really be doing, to be able to not do anything and just be like, that's great. So,
Yeah.
and then just trying to take care of myself and whatever. Like if it's nice out, then I'll go walk. These are things to help me just like, again, be present, but then putting myself first. So I try to be intentional at least a few different ways every day
Hmm.
to help me kind of bring it back to, because it's not, a perfect science and like it's
No.
easy on busier days, right, to get lost in the sauce, but no one being more aware and then saying, hey, maybe bring it back and like, to not end up reverting back to old or previous versions of
Yeah.
myself. So I think just the awareness is huge. And just,
It definitely isn't. I'm glad you said that because awareness is the main and the first step of getting our shit together. Because if we're not
mm-hmm.
aware there's shit to be gotten together, how are we gonna get it together?
Right?
If you're not aware that there's a problem, how would you know how to even solve it? And at the
Exactly.
same
Everything's
time,
going to be on fire. Like you said, I said it
exactly.
in the beginning. I had no idea. I wasn't aware.
Yeah, because awareness is not there all the time. We need to sometimes
Mm-hmm.
pause and think and have that
Yeah.
morning routine, like you said. And I agree with you. Sometimes, like if the morning routine is not done, it disrupts the whole day.
Mm-hmm.
But, as a coach, I would also challenge that because I know that there's the reason why. And it's
Yeah.
many ways it's, in my experience, what I recognize, because if I can call myself out, I can call others out. But not
Yeah.
everybody's ready to be called out. It's an excuse. For
Mm-hmm.
me, it was like an excuse. It was a reason to quote unquote not do the best, show up as the best
Mm-hmm.
version of myself throughout the day because I didn't complete that. Because I was a
Mm-hmm.
bad girl, I didn't complete it.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Right. And we all have this programming of a good girl. That's why we put everybody else first. And the good
Yep.
girl is, in other words, a superwoman. Like, as a superhero
Mm-hmm.
is doing every single thing. She just forgets to stand in her pose once in a while
Right. Yeah.
to recharge herself because
Sure.
this is where she
Yeah.
she gets back into that I am
Mm-hmm.
a badass bitch. I can do anything I want. And
Right.
I've even done that exercise. And those of you who
Oh
are
yeah, there's
feeling
science
called to
behind
do
that.
it, there
Mm-hmm.
is. Stand up in
Mm-hmm.
that superwoman pose.
Mm-hmm.
For a while, I was doing that every morning to get myself into that space of get finding my footing into liking myself before I can love
Mm-hmm.
myself
Mm-hmm.
and getting to know myself and showing up for
Mm-hmm.
myself. It starts small. Everything starts small. And I know there's women who are listening right now that are stuck in that dreaming, that doubting, the beating themselves up and all the should, the coulds, all that programming that somebody else is telling them, this is what you should be doing, this is what you could be doing. We see potential in other people, But the potential that the person sees in themselves is going to be different than what we see because we see the potential in other people in a way of, if I was you, this is what I would do. But the truth
Mm-hmm.
is that you're not me
Mm-hmm.
and you're not going to be doing what I would do because you wouldn't be. You'd be doing what you would do. We see the potential in others, but we fail to see the potential in ourselves more often than not. And
Mm-hmm.
we get into that overthinking phase as well. So, what would you say to that woman? What would you say to her that might finally get her to move that she is not ready to hear?
Ooh. Oh my gosh. That is your question's so good.
Took some time
Am
to
I
put
trying
them
to do something?
together.
I love it. I'm like trying to think of something like succinct to say. Um, honestly, I think I kind of said it already in a sense too. If you, it's kind of like shit or get off the pot, but if you change nothing, nothing's going to change.
Yeah,
You are literally are the creator of the life that you want to live. Like nobody else is gonna like I think it was even in the post that you had that I had said because nobody's coming to save you, right? You are
yeah,
your knight in shining armor. So meaning that you have full agency, you have the full capability to do, create, build anything that you want. So if you don't like your circumstances, well, you created that. So you have every capability to change that
yeah,
because the only person to blame would be yourself. So if you don't like it, change it. And where do you start? I mean, it doesn't, start one thing at a time. It's where you take those big things or that big goal, that dream, and break that down into what are the steps to get you there. And then you start with just like one small step. Like it doesn't have to be, it's not going to be an overnight thing, right? But get
yeah,
clear and ask yourself, what would I love? Whether that that's your entire dream or like or in your career or it's probably going to be all the things, but what would you love, because there's obviously a gap, and how do you close that gap from
yeah,
whatever you love to where you are now, and then figure out what are those areas or what are those steps, and then break that down in something that's bite size, right? Because it could be overwhelming, right, when we're making
yeah,
big changes. But that's the beauty of like being consistent, right? If you have consistency and you're showing up every day or you're doing one small thing every single day, whether that is drinking more water, whether that is taking 10 minutes for yourself, whether that is whatever it is, but the consistency is going to
washing
build. And that's
dishes.
exactly. You can be intentional washing dishes. That's the thing
Yeah,
too, right? Like, what am I doing? This is an intentionality. What am I doing? How can I create that space or what those thoughts or whatever it is that you are wanting to create? You have every capability to do that. What is something you're doing every day and stack onto that? Like it doesn't have to be a big thing, right? But the consistency builds momentum. And if you want
yeah,
momentum, that's going to launch you into whatever it is that you want. But it starts with you. You
yeah,
create that for yourself. So if you're not, everything looks like shit, well,
because it is.
it is shit. So
Right.
you want less shit? What can we do to help you get out of the shit, right? And
Yeah,
be less shitty, right? But you have
yeah,
to take ownership, and sometimes that does involve, like you said, too, being radically honest. And then you take accountability for why your life is so shitty. I had to do that. I wasn't pretty.
me too.
Because
Yeah,
yeah, things are being mirrored back to me, but I had to take accountability for the reasons that looked really shitty. Why my relationship looked shitty, how I showed up really shitty, how my business was shitty. Like I had to take accountability. I could sit there and I previously blamed these people not paying me or for me to be low or me having credit card debt or for me like, but I made those choices. I decided that I made the moves that I did from a place and a version that is not me, not me anymore, but I still did that, right? So you have to get honest, and
yeah,
then what can I do differently or what did I learn, right? Because these are lessons. What did I learn to do or not to do, in the future? And and it's all just lessons, but you have the capability to make that happen
yeah.
for
I love
yourself.
that. I love the calling out because I believe it is important.
Yeah.
And not everybody would be ready to hear it. To some, I know it might be maybe feeling like bad about yourself, but if you are finding yourself there, I know that that state and that stage is very important. This is where we actually do get to see ourselves. We don't get to see ourselves when we are happy and joyful. We get to see ourselves and understand ourselves when we are triggered, when we're
Mm-hmm.
going through shit, when we're dealing with shit, when we're going through the hardest part of our life, because that's how we grow, that's how we change, that's how we evolve to get to that next version or level of ourselves through the muck, through the hard things. And at the same time, when you are able to recognize and you're able to name the problem, you're halfway there. Because
Mm-hmm.
naming the problem is half of the solution, literally. Many people can't name their problem, but those of you who can, that means you're already halfway there. Now that you know what it
Mm-hmm.
is, you know what the problem is, you also know the solution. You do not need
Mm-hmm.
to learn anything, to go and do anything else. You do not need to go read a book. You do not need none of that. You don't even need to go to Google to find the answers or to ChatGPT, whatever search you use,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hopefully you're using ChatGPT better than you're doing Google, because otherwise you're doing a disservice. So I'll just put that seed in there as well. But you have the answers within you. You're prepared for everything that life
Mm-hmm.
throws at you or tries to, knock you down. It's just a matter of pause, think about it, think
Mm-hmm.
about the thinking, like, right, as you
Right?
said earlier, Natasha,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
and then you write things down. I always recommend writing things down instead of
Yep.
just thinking about them, because when you're thinking about them, they're still gonna stay in there. And you
Mm-hmm.
want to get, it's like literally instead of you thinking about things and those words floating in your head, just picture a tornado with your words in there. You can't see it clearly. You can't even catch it. It's all mumbled and jumbled.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta get that shit out. I call it brain dump. You dump your
Yep.
brain
Me too.
on paper and see what dump essentially what shit you have there, and then you get to see and understand yourself, and you see
Mm-hmm.
that solution for that problem that you have as well. And often you'll
Mm-hmm.
see a lot of things that are on that list that you should be delegating for somebody else to do. You shove never be cleaning your
Mm.
kids' rooms. I'll just say that as an example. I don't know, Natasha, if your kids clean their rooms, but I haven't cleaned
Depends
my
on the
kids'
day.
rooms. I can't remember. I think my son was 4 years old the last time I cleaned his room. And now he's turning 13. And for my daughter as well.
Mm-hmm.
They had to learn to do those things themselves because I'm doing them this service.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making it easier for me because I don't have to get upset or angry or remind them constantly. And that shit is exhausting having to
So
remind them.
exhausting.
Now I'm in the stage where now how I'm getting my shit together right now is by helping my children, especially the youngest one, to get his shit together by you remember the things that you're responsible for. They're no longer
Mm-hmm.
my responsibility. It is not my responsibility to remind you. But
Mm-hmm.
it's a journey. It's not going to happen just because I want it like that. It needs to happen because he's the one that wants it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, my process of that is figuring out how do I help him, right? To
Mm-hmm.
get to a place where he's the one that wants to do it, just like we did with our daughter. But we can't have the same process with our son because they're different human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm a different version for my son, and I'm a different version for my daughter because they're different human beings of how I need to show up for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, uh, thank you for sharing how you
Yeah.
are continuing to get your shit together, recognizing that, hey, it's not an ending process. It's just a life journey. We're doing
Mm-hmm.
this for the rest of our life. And until we get there, once we get there, we'll find a new destination of where we want to go. Right?
Right? Yeah.
New existence. So the last question I want to ask you before we wrap up here, because I know
Mhm.
we're a little bit past our time today, is what part of yourself are you finally allowing to exist without trying to fix, hide, or prove it anymore to anyone at all?
Ooh. I mean, honestly, it just being my authentic self. Like now knowing like I
Mm.
don't hide, like I'm very open. I mean, I felt like I was open before, but like I feel like even for anything kind of woo-woo-y, that comes out of my mouth. I mean,
Yeah.
there's so many things that I'm just not, I'm very open. I share. I mean, I think again, previous versions of me would not share half of the things, even whether it comes to life or things that I, you know, believe or think about. And like, I just say what's on my mind. I share, I think even with my own podcast episodes, they're getting a little more like woo woo in the sense of everything is still pretty like science based, but like things that people are going to be like, what the hell is she even talking? Like, what? But I just being able to share and just be me, the authentic version of me, and unfiltered. I don't, I just don't give a shit. And I think that's the part that it gave too many shits about the things and the people
Yeah.
that didn't matter, like what they were thinking, how I was gonna get judged, and that's kind of where the like my idea when the false fear, which is false evidence appearing real, where all of
Yeah.
that came from. Because all of this is an illusion. These are a lot of things that are in our mind when we think we're stuck or we don't have a solution. This is all just an imaginary prison that we created in our mind. You, like you said, you always have the solution. You have everything that you need. You just have to figure out the key to unlock that. But you know what to do. You
Yeah.
just have to, find
Yeah.
it within yourself.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
I would also add that the best approach would be to have someone to help you on that journey
Hmm.
to figure things out because it makes all the difference in the world having that soundboard. Because when
Absolutely.
it's just ourselves, we will lie to ourselves. We will use all the excuses in the book. And even though we know their excuses, we'll still allow ourselves to get away with it.
Hmm.
And of course, and how can we really truly love ourselves? How can we even trust ourselves and feel safe with ourselves when we continue to lie to ourselves and run away from things? When you said
Hmm.
fear, you know, I hear it as fuck everything and run. Often that's
Yeah.
like that as well for people.
Yep. Hmm.
Because we're seeing this illusion, we believe it to be true. Saber-tooth tiger, and now saber-tooth tiger is everywhere. That's why most people are living with a nervous system that is shook,
Hmm.
and they are feeling like they're in fight or flight.
Yep.
And social media does an amazing job with that as well, to trigger people to live and stay in that constant fight or flight and not enoughness,
Yes.
unworthiness. And
Hmm.
it's not a fun place to be in. Um, I know I've been there. You know you've been there as well. And all the
Hmm.
women who are listening, you wouldn't be listening, especially all the way up to the end, if
Right.
if this doesn't resonate with you as well.
Hmm.
So if you're listening this far, I want to say thank you and let us know if you listen from the beginning to the end as well, because not everybody
Yes.
dedicates and allows themselves this time for personal growth and evolution as well. This is what these podcasts allow all of us to do and experience as well. So thank you so much, Natasha, for sharing your
Yes.
story
You're
and
welcome.
sharing
Thanks
your
for having me.
light. I know many women will see themselves in your words today as well.
Mm.
Make sure you follow her and check her out as well, and go and check out her podcast.
Thank
And
you.
what's the name of your podcast again, so you can say it for everyone?
Uh, Fear Chronicles, which is false evidence appearing real. And then I also, because I thought of this before, um, for anybody who's still on, look at this. This is, I know my blur is on, so you
Yeah, it
may not be
blurs it
able to
out.
see it. There we
Oh, there
go.
you go. Yeah.
So this is a little picture of me. And so one of the things throughout my journey is I talk to her. I tell her, that she is amazing and I love her
Mhm.
and she's doing a great job because all of this starts from way back when.
Yes.
And it's really that self-love journey. So this has been huge for me. So I wanted to share that too because I
And
think
that's
it
awesome.
it
Yeah,
sounds silly, but it's actually amazing
it is.
because
It's
it's you.
literally like healing your inner
Authentic
child.
version of you. Yes.
Yeah.
That is the most authentic version of you and that's where you got to start.
Yeah. You got to go to the beginning, to the basics where you were little and just learning even how
Hmm.
to walk or crawl.
Hmm.
Yeah. I love
I love
doing
it.
child meditations in my sacred circles. And those are the ones that women find themselves, even though they've done it many times already, they still find themselves crying
Oh
and
yeah.
seeing a different version of themselves. And rarely do
Hmm.
they end up seeing the same exact version. Even if you look at that version, you still are triggered with different versions, not just
Hmm.
that particular one,
No.
right? Even as a teenager, you might even
Hmm.
experience yourself in.
Oh
So,
gosh. Yeah.
so ladies, if you love this episode, please share it with a friend who is ready to get her shit together and come hang out with us inside Get Your Shit Together podcast, where these kind of conversations can help you to learn, apply, and get your shit together in your life as well. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast because not all episodes are actually live like this one. Many of them are pre-recorded. And you don't want to miss them because those are great ones. All of them are great, and every single woman, I see that the stories are similar in so many ways, but yet they're so different at the core. The feelings, the emotions, are the same for us all. We don't have different names for grief or for sadness or for overwhelm or burnout. We have one word that helps us to understand. So thank you, everybody. And until next time, keep showing up, keep becoming, and remember, you are not behind. You are not too old, and you're not too late. You are right on time, and you're exactly where you're meant to be. So thank you, everybody. Until next time. Bye. And